Hello, this is William Cooper. Welcome to Awakening Together, Relaxing into Happiness. In our last couple podcasts, we talked about various ways of manifesting. The first way is to manifest through following your bliss and doing the things that you need to do to support your quest in following your bliss. Joseph Campbell called it the hero's journey. The second way we looked at was the power of prayer, and we talked about that. Third way was the law of attraction. Fourth way was manifesting through vibration. As your vibration goes up, you call in and attract things that vibrate in an equally high way. Abundance, love, peace, well-being, good relationships, things like that. Conversely, to the degree that you have a low vibration, things come to you that maybe you don't want. Hurt, fear, anger, discord, fights, things like that. But as these things come to you, they show you, because the external reflects the internal, what's going on with you. And it gives you a wonderful opportunity to see within you what is resonating so that you can let it go if you'd like and raise your vibration. We also spoke about manifesting through the power of sound, mantras, and other forms of sound. We talked about affirmations and we talked about conscious languaging, each of those being different ways to manifest depending on where you are and what you're doing in your life and your spiritual journey. All of these ways of manifesting are seen from the perspective of separation. We are distinct and separate individuals who are on our hero's journey, or the separate me is praying to my separate divine. Or we are looking at our vibration, or we are doing mantras or affirmations, or we are conscious languaging because we are separate, or at least we think we are. There's an overlap with all of these ways of manifestation, and yes, in some cases, they happen in oneness. We don't have to practice them from an apparent state of separation, such as conscious languaging or manifesting through the law of vibration, or some of the other ways. There's an overlap in all of these things. So to the degree of our separation or focus or lack of focus, we create both quote-unquote positive things for ourselves and unconsciously, possibly, negative things for ourselves. We create harm and troubles because we have unresolved things that we haven't let go of. And so as a result, for most of us, although the law of manifesting sounds good, we don't often take into account that manifesting is everything, and usually the unawakened person is manifesting a cacophony of effects, positive effects, negative effects, all sorts of things, some things canceling out other things. So try as you might, you don't move forward in life even though you're manifesting or attempting to manifest with all of your might and with all of your clarity. It's just that you're not that clear yet, possibly. However, as we discussed in those last couple podcasts, just the attempt to manifest moves you forward, and you start to have some successes. And as you move forward, you bump into the walls that have been holding you back. And then if you're meditating or you have some other good spiritual practice, you can release these blocks or things that are holding you back. As you're both in touch with the radiance of your being and you let those blocks go, you are in a deep awakening process, and that culminates in oneness, total awakeness. So we're all on the path. It all works out. And this is just part and parcel of how it works. In India, there's the story of the guru who was attacked, and the guru became angry. The guru realized that, he had anger within himself, because if he didn't have anger in himself, he wouldn't have been angry. He might have responded to the attacker in other ways, such as, I'm sorry about what's going on with you. You must be in a lot of pain to feel like attacking me, or I wish you the best, or what can I do for you? But because he had anger, he realized he had unresolved anger. Otherwise, he wouldn't feel angry. So he apologized and told the attacker how grateful he was to the attacker for showing him and eliciting the anger that he had within himself. So life shows us the things that we have to work on, and it comes at us from all different directions. There was a Jain Hindu guru named Dada Bhagavan in Mumbai, and he ran an ad in the paper asking people to slap him in the face. And he offered a large sum of money if somebody would come and slap him in the face. He wanted to see if he had anything unresolved in him which would allow somebody to come forward and slap him. Things like anger or hurt or whatever might draw somebody to you to give you a good tight slap. India is not a rich country, but nonetheless, nobody would respond because he didn't have any of these things inside of him that would allow anybody to attack him. He didn't have the negative cross currents to manifest negativity in his life, and he was testing for that. So we can manifest negative and positive. Additionally, as we talked about in the podcast on karma, we're affected by our city karma, our country karma, family karma. So that's another source, both positive and negative, of manifesting around us. For instance, Jesus was highly enlightened. He was very awake. He could create miracles, no doubt about it. But he was tortured and killed. He lived in a tough part of town, and the karma around him was very rough. That affected him. On a bigger picture, we could say, well, what happened was exactly what was supposed to happen, because on a cosmic level, something deeper was going on, which brings us to a conversation about manifesting from oneness. Deep trust that everything that happens as it's supposed to happen. All of the things that do happen within that context from oneness. However, from the context of a perception of separation, even though that's a false perception, a perception seen through the lens of delusion, these same activities look quite different. They look like they are obstacles to be overcome, problems in my life, and therefore I need to learn how to manifest and overcome them because I, as a separate person, need to do that. From oneness, everything is just fine the way it is, and yet paradoxically, the universe flows through and manifests on a very high plane. So let's talk about manifesting from oneness. You know, we're not instantly in oneness, and we're not all the time in oneness and all the time separate from oneness. We often go back and forth, and it's a continuum. Eventually, the highly awakened individual is no longer an individual and is one, indeed one. Yet they can come into creation and be separate to a degree enough to function and to enjoy life as a separate but highly realized personality. The universe, in effect, flowing through a body-mind mechanism so that the inside, Oneness can experience the outside, the internal experiencing the external. Oneness and individuality all at the same time if you hold them loosely. In the world, but not of it. Loving chocolate, but not being so attached that you have a tantrum if you don't get some. You feel good anyway. Everything we talk about as far as oneness, though, is quite paradoxical because even in the world, the awakened person experiences the world both as separate and as one. And the very qualities of the world are vibrating with peace, love, joy, bliss, even if it doesn't look that way. I often give the illustration of a knife that is made of frozen water. It's really water, but it's also a knife, and it can kill you. But if you're dying of thirst, you're glad to have that knife made of ice, and as it melts, you drink it, and you're good. In oneness, everything feels good. It's like the world is made of chocolate, even the knives and the guns. Yet, there are knives and guns, so you stay away from those things. So, these things are paradoxical, and you can't take too tight a grip. It's just that you know it because you know it in the awakened state. As we've spoken about in previous podcasts, we know we're not our thoughts because a thought can disappear and will still be here. Same with emotions. And the personality is made of thoughts and emotions. So we know that the personality is something we've made in order to navigate through the life of ours, but we are not our personality. It's just like we're not the car that we drive. We're the one driving the car, but we're not the car. We're not the personality either. So having seen that very clearly and let go, because to see is to be free, awareness is curative, and we can release all of the hurt, fear, and anger that comes from separation when we did believe that we were a separate individual. We still can use our personality, but we're no longer separate. So we're sort of strobing in and out, and we're using all the facets of our existence, the inside, the outside, all at the same time. And in that sense, they become one. Our thought forms and our emotions in the oneness state begin to heal themselves. And instead of being informed by separation, hurt, fear, and anger, and created by those, instead our thoughts transform themselves. It might be slowly, but they do transform themselves, coming from a place of wholeness, of light, love, peace, well-being, happiness, and joy, as do our emotions. And since they make up our personality can also start to shift. From a place of oneness, as we let go of that personality and we truly experience we are not the personality, then that means we're not the person. We're flowing through this conduit we would call our personality and body, but we're coming from a far deeper place. We are coming from this deeper place, flowing down through our body and mind and experiencing the world from the experience and perspective of oneness, of infinite and beyond. Because we're not our personality, we are the world, we are the universe and beyond. We are everything. And because we're everything, and this is a felt experience, this is oneness, it's a vibration, it's not a philosophy, it's a knowing, a direct experience. It's an explosive energy. Because we're one with everything, we trust. We trust the way that everything is unfolding because everything is us. There's no distinction. It's not I am everything. That's really like two. Our language finds it very difficult to talk about this, but it's only everything, which is us. Everything is us. The blocks that would say otherwise have disappeared. So there is only everything. And then very lightly, we could strobe into the light experience of being a separate being because we want to use our personality to go to the grocery store or talk to the mailman. But we don't hold on to it very tightly. We're in the world, but we're not of it. Now, coming from this place of everything, of oneness, everything that happens has its place. It's okay. And we have a deep knowing that everything's working out perfectly. From that place of complete relaxation, trust, happiness, joy, and bliss, of course our vibration is very high. And because our vibration is very high, all the high things tend to come through us. A radiance, a bliss, a beauty, and miracles start to happen effortlessly around us. It's not like we necessarily think them up. It's more of the experience of a thought drops into our head from somewhere. It's a beautiful thought, and we watch it happen. We watch it manifest. It's not that because we're in such lack and pain and trouble, we're conjuring up a vision board and doing this and that and desperately trying to get ourselves out of a pickle. Instead, we're just letting life flow through us, and the thoughts and the visions and the intent and the focus is very clear. And our life manifests nicely around us. What happens when we go through the manifestation process as a supposed separate individual and we do physical manifestation or the power of prayer or the law of attraction or the law of vibration or the manifesting through vibration and the spoken word, when we do all of these things, even though we are separate, we force the parts of us that have been blocking us to step aside at least a tiny bit. When we follow our bliss, that same rush of energy and passion that flows through that is the same rush of energy and passion that runs through the entire universe all the time anyway and is experienced explosively 100% of the time by the awakened. So the awakened doesn't really sit around trying to visualize life getting better because life is already better, and whatever needs to happen, there's a deep trust that it will happen. And if guidance needs to happen or you need to move in a certain direction, that direction will come to you and you will do it. It will feel good. It feels like you're continually following your bliss. And if something happens that is a roadblock, miracles occur to move that block or to inform you to move left or right. If you still have unclarities in you, just like that guru thanking the person who slapped them, life will bring those unclarities to your attention, and you will feel the discord or the surprising emotion like anger, hurt, or fear that you thought was long gone. Suddenly it will pop up from some recesses of your mind or personality, and you can just meditate and release them. That being the case and the backdrop from the awakened perspective makes sense when Ramana, from his awakened perspective, said, "Whatever is destined not to happen will not happen, try as you may. Whatever is destined to happen will happen. Do what you may to prevent it. This is certain. The best course, therefore, is to remain silent." Life knows. The deepest you knows, and it will provide all of the support that you need. You might remember that Jesus said in Matthew 6, verses 25 through 34, there's no need to worry. Life will take care of you, just like it takes care of the lilies of the field and the birds, etc. So, from the awakened perspective, manifesting is happening automatically, and it's happening in a perfect way. Trees are doing their things and they're not worrying. Flowers are doing their thing. Nature is doing their thing. Everything is doing what it's destined to do. And what do I mean by that destined word? Well, that's going to be a separate podcast, but briefly, in the awakened state, when the personal self disappears, everything becomes you. So you are all actions. You are all effects. You are the world. You are everything, and everything makes sense. All of the intelligence in the world is you, and you know what you're doing, and you're taking care of yourself. So in that sense, we mean destined. Destiny is kind of a conundrum when you're looking at it from an individual perspective, because the individual perspective is based on a delusion. The personality really doesn't exist, so anything that comes from it is suspect. And we've talked about this in previous podcasts, so I realize if it sounds odd to you, go back to some previous podcasts, and then hopefully what I'm saying will make a little bit more sense. But from the separate perspective, when I look at destiny, I think, oh, I've lost my free will. Well, the personal self never did exist. There was no will to lose. But the all, the everything, which you truly are, that has total free will, and it does what it wants. That's who you are, and that's why it feels like you have free will, because you do. So, a couple more things. Divine intelligence knows what it's doing. The individual self doesn't really know what it's doing. It has a limited amount of information. Often gurus, people that are very clear, as everything flows through them, including all divine intelligence, miracles start to happen in their lives, in the people's lives that hang out around them. But the guru themselves often doesn't even know that these miracles are happening. It's the high frequency, the intelligence that's flowing through that body and emanating from them that does all the work and takes care of all of the manifesting. So although a guru could use their intent and picture and purposely do a miracle, Jesus did those, they don't have to. They just happen spontaneously around them because everything knows what it's doing. And everything, when it channels down through a personality, can at that point purposefully do a miracle if it wants to. So it can work in many different ways. My friend Bhagavan, who is a guru and has millions of followers, I've mentioned him before, but he said something very interesting. He said that if somebody comes to him and asked him for something, to heal something or heal their relationship or whatever it might be, he pictures that thing that they're requesting in his mind, and if it stays in his mind, if it stays as a clear picture, then he knows it will happen. But if he can't hold it in his mind, if it wobbles or disappears, he knows it won't happen. Point being is, the universe already knows what's going to happen. He's just tuning in to what the universe is telling him. Thoughts come into his head, and they either stay or they don't. And if they don't stay, the universe doesn't have that intent for that situation. It has another intent. One thing we can be sure, though, is the universe always has the highest and best intent for all of us. And as we talked about reincarnation and past lives before in that other podcast, there's no hurry. It's all going to work out. So we can take a breath. And we just follow our heart, and we do baby steps, and we get clearer and clearer. Our vibration goes up. We awaken together, and then poof, we're one. We're one with all things. We're awake. And at that point, we can decide to be an individual again or not. Some gurus stop being awake and then start all over again because they just enjoy the process. So there's benefits to not being awake. Then you can be a separate person enjoying things and enjoying the drama of death and hurt and suffering. And it's just like a character in a movie. Because once you're awake, you don't take it all so seriously because you know it's all okay. It's just a drama. Just like when you go watch a movie at the theater, it's not the end of the world because you know it's just a movie. Well, I hope that's a good start on looking at various aspects of manifestation. I know we're just on the front end of these podcasts and there's a lot to talk about. I have a good writing that I did on this subject called Ramana, Prayer, and the Law of Attraction. And it's on my website under the Writings tab, www.williamecooper.wordpress.com. The reason I did those writings and the contemplations and these podcasts was because at the start of my spiritual career, so to speak, I was clueless and I was in lots of pain. I went through a 4-year seminary program. I had been in conservative Christian churches, liberal Christian churches. Now I've gone to India 13 times, as long as 6 months a time. Bhutan. I've explored, talked to lots of awakened people. Why? Because inch by inch, I wanted to be clear and whole and out of my pain. And guess what? It's working. I am experiencing oneness. And as I said before, all of us go back and forth between the old personality and the direct experience of oneness. We do that for a while until our awakening becomes stable. It's permanent, but it's not stable. And I see it. I see what's unfolding. I see day by day what's letting go. I had one teacher, one guru, always ask at the end of every session, what changed today? And that's what we can do. Look, every day, what's changed today as we let something go that's been holding us back? But anyway, I've done all of these writings and podcasts to give people what I found to be helpful and to eliminate all of the sidetracks. I've been at this for decades, and I'm trying to make it easier and tell you the things that I both was told and wish I had been told as I've sorted through all this stuff. And I understand that your experience may be well beyond what I talk about in my podcast, but in talking to those where it's not, I hope these podcasts are helpful to you. There are many other good podcasts out there. This isn't the only information. I'm not saying it is, but it's my best effort to do something good because so many people have done good things for me. So I would urge you to continue your meditation practice. And if some of the things I say in this podcast are a little bit odd and new for you, I would just go back to the first podcast and work yourself forward. And we've got lots more to cover going forward. Okay, I look forward to the next podcast and talking to you soon. Thanks for listening. Bye. Hello, this is William. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please consider sharing it with somebody else. Send them a link. Thanks so much.